Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be carrying on with January's exceptional story, Stolen Stanzas. You have the opportunity to carry out an ill-advised heist of the entire print run of a notorious poetry collection, Reflections on Ease. How will you research this? You have interviewed an incoherent reliable and learned that the book made Mr. Pages very angry indeed. You have heard about the book's literary merits from bohemians. It is hotly anticipated, but its interpretation varies wildly. You have made a detailed survey of the warehouse and its security arrangements. They are not as tight as one would expect from the masters. We completed our research in the last episode, so we are ready to plan this thing. You have gained a good understanding of what the book is. It seems to have enough notoriety in literary circles that you could extract some value from its print run, even if the publisher's reward turns out to be insufficient. You can still walk away from the opportunity, but where's the fun in that? The success of any criminal enterprise, if returning a book to its publisher can be truly called criminal, depends on the planning. Well, that and a few flashy moves during the operation itself. Peppery preparations will improve your chances during the heist. Okay, so we have a couple of options here, I feel. Read about the previous heists of this type. The less prestigious bookshops carry a small library of true crime confessionals. Some of those include valuable insider details. Spend a journal of infamy to acquire an extra peppery preparation. You'd only have time to pick up 2 extras in total. We could get some crazed horses. You know a goods depot with carts that are unused in the evening. You can borrow horses from there. But those horses are used to a measured pace. Perhaps it's worth investing in horses with something to prove. I would quite like some cantankerous horses. Or we can commission a ratwork speed loader. There may be a lot of books to load. You could use helpful apparatus. So I'll use quite a few bits of random stuff we have floating around. Or we could recruit a Neddy Man insider. They are not well paid, and they are not given any respect. Let's go with a ratwork speed loader, because I like rats. You meet with a small delegation of Ratus Faber who listen to your technical requirements with a lot of neck scratching and exaggerated inhalation. The gaffer hops up on a tea crate to talk to you. We might have something. Been thinking about it as a rapid unloader for marine shock troops, like. But it fits on a cart and the lever pulls both ways. Glad to test it in the field. Covert, if I catch your drift. Wonderful. I kinda want the cantankerous horses. Lucky Duckworth holds the London record for being kicked in the face by a horse and surviving. 387 incidents at last count. On the city's edge, he runs a sanctuary for spirited steeds too wild for ordinary duties. You pay him a visit and compliment him on his commitment to animal welfare. He nods and looks thoughtful. You just have to talk to them in their own language, he says. Behind him, an Exmoor pony kicks down a perimeter fence and charges into the dark, snorting. Damn it, Winston! He runs off. An hour later, you leave with 4 shadowy thoroughbreds that Lucky assures you are just misunderstood. Is it just that I can only do this one twice? Oh, maybe we can only do one of each of these. That probably makes sense, huh? For some reason, my brain didn't even read the top one. Ask the experts for assistance. It should be safe to share the location of your intended haul. Not many of the criminal fraternity are enthusiastic readers. Let's recruit a Neddy Man insider first, though. Seems the easier option, doesn't it? You watch the guards for a while. Eventually, one trips. He doesn't even fall on his face, but the others mercilessly reconstruct that moment for the rest of the day. By the time the shift changes, he is white-knuckled and sullen. You follow him to the local Spit and Sawdust pub, and after a few minutes, find a pretext to buy him a drink. After a couple, you explain what you would like him to do. At first, he declines. Then, he thinks about it. Would I clobber that gash nab with a scarlet waistcoat? You can see that could work. Alright, he says. I'm in. That was easy. Let's ask the experts for assistance. The broken-toothed cracksman examines a map of the area and shakes his head. You're wide open all the way round. Lots of options for getting out. Not so many for getting in. My advice is create a distraction first. A bloody big distraction. Okay. And let's read about previous heists of this type. There are no obvious precedents for the theft of the entire print run of a book. There was the notorious three-wagon heist of a morning edition of the unexpurged London Gazette on what has become known as Ink Finger Friday. That effort ended in a tragic but preventable blaze. You make a note to permit no smoking near the book pile. That seems fair. We shall now press on. Those books are just mouldering in the warehouse. This will commit you to completing the heist. Be sure you are happy with your preparations before proceeding. You check the map and schedule and remove anything from your pockets that could be used to identify you. The horses are harnessed and ready. It's time to steal some poetry. The warehouse is still encircled by Neddy men. You pick your moment toward the end of the shift, when they are all getting bored and tired. One has already thrown a friend into Peppery Dock. The friend has not reappeared. Okay, so we have three options. We can create a distraction. The other side of the warehouse faces a wall of scaffolding. Whether it will collapse on cue depends on whether you have unscrewed the correct joints and used the acids in sufficient quantity. We can fight our way in. There's a lot of them and you'll probably get hurt, but perhaps this is your way. Or we can use our Neddy Insider. Hopefully he remembered the signal once he's sobered up. Let's create a distraction. The scaffolding whines, then groans. A joint pops and drops, a bar swings against another with a metallic clang. Then, like a house of cards, it all comes down. Neddy men rush over to goggle at the spectacle. One of them is a little more savvy than the others and remains in place to guard the uninteresting side of the warehouse. You barge him with the cart and knock him out cold. Jumping down from the driver's seat, you open the warehouse and wheel in your vehicle. Closed doors will hide you for a while, but you'll need to move fast. This dank, mouldering place is not ideal for storing new print. Still, at least there don't seem to be guards inside. Not yet. In the centre sit two cubic bundles, which should just about fit on your cart. A nagging doubt leads you to part the ropes and slice a flap into the cloth wrapping. The book cover beneath features a wayfish blonde brandishing a key in front of a turbulent ocean. This is, indeed, Reflections on Ys. We can use our Ratwork speed loader. That lever has just been sitting there, waiting for somebody to pull it. We only have a 70% chance of success. I was hoping this may be slightly higher. We could also load using the warehouse block and tackle, but let's use the speed loader. Using the scope, you line up the wagon against the first block of books. You take a deep breath and pull the lever to the load position. The apparatus clicks, whirs and extrudes a frame like a giant pair of metal hands. The fingers tighten around the pile of books and slip 3 flat forks beneath it at either side. The wagon tilts as a counterbalance swings out and the lift engages. The mechanism is surprisingly fast. You duck out of the way as the book block rises and arcs onto the bed of the wagon. A quick adjustment, another pull of the lever, and you're fully loaded. These LBs know their stuff. A head appears in silhouette at the window. "There's someone in there!" it shouts. "Yeah, it's time for the horses to do their thing." You flick the reins. Your sanctuary horses have been waiting for just this signal. They pull so hard it feels like your teeth disappear down the back of your throat. Your wagon crashes through the warehouse doors. A Neddy man, reaching for the handle, gets smashed in the face and describes a graceful arc on his way to the dirty ground. Others scatter as your loaded cart gathers momentum. You aim for an open street and risk a look back. Some guards give chase on foot, others scramble for any transport to hand. Someone has jumped onto my cart. Oh no. The cart seems to be pulling to the left. You check the wheels and see a Neddy man clambering up between them. In moments, he will have heaved himself on board. We can dash him against the building. It seems unlikely that reasonable dialogue will resolve this situation. Or we can leave the reins and kick him off. The horses can manage without you for a few seconds. I want to try this. You scramble back along the cart and steady yourself on the books. The Neddy man stares up at you. You thrust your foot towards his face. Instinctively, he throws up his hands for protection. And he's gone. Under the rear wheel. The cart bumps once. The horses react, dragging the cart towards a lamppost. You vault back to the driver's seat and snatch up the reins just in time to resolve a critical disagreement on whether to go left or right around the incoming obstacle. You race the Neddy man through the early hours. There seem rather a lot of them. They pursue on horses, phaetons and overloaded carts. So we can either have a prepared route. This little alley is not on the map, but when you walked the route yesterday, it looked just wide enough for your cart. This will use our peppery preparations, or we can demoralize the Neddy men. Their parentage, their saddle skills, their dress sense. Nothing is off limits. Oh, I have to do this. You brace yourself on the cart and turn to hurl insults at the pursuing Neddy men. You castigate them for their poor security and how easily you outfoxed them back at the warehouse. For the sloppy way they handle horses and phaetons. You taunt them. You criticize their hats. You leave enough breath for a blistering coup de grace about their personal odour. You shut up, one says, but their pursuit seems a little less confident. The warehouse is out of sight now. Neddy jeers ring out behind you. Though we still have our prepared route, but we also have a chance for scatter a handful of change. Neddy men are known to be underpaid. Would a shower of money distract them? It's worth finding out. I have to throw the rusty gold. You veer off to the right, but make a big deal about tossing a fistful of rusty gold to the left. It catches the lamplight and twinkles merrily as it hits the cobbles. The driver of the lead cart is made of stern stuff and urges his horses to follow you. But the rider behind the cart follows the money, and another Neddy man jumps from the cart to get there first. A fight breaks out over the meagre riches in the gutter. Probably worth the investment. You throw the cart around the corner. A terrified maid flees up some stairs. Oh god, we can dodge the postman? What kind of idiot crosses the road in front of an illicit book transport? Or we can demoralize the Neddy men. Let's dodge the postman, because I love this artwork. A little too late, the postman notices the onrushing cart. Letters and parcels fly into the air as you haul the reins to the one side. Your instincts guide you true, and you wheel around the unfortunate public servant. He stares after you, mouth open, oblivious to the Neddy men bearing down on him from behind. Well, you can't look after him all day. A letter settles on the seat beside you. This could be useful. You gained a compromising document. You throw the cart around a corner. Is that a constable? He didn't even look in your direction. Well, let's take evasive action. A dedicated Neddy man on a horse looks like he may attempt to board your cart. You risk another look around. He is coming up fast. A Neddy man on a horse draws up on your left side. You steer the cart towards him. He falls back, but the horses take the next turn. It looks like a dead end. Or is it? You have prepared for just this eventuality. It's about time we use some of these peppery preparations, huh? That large advertisement for rubbery lumps swings out on a hinge. Your agent in the shop behind has opened it, right on schedule, revealing the loading yard beyond. You urge the horses inside as she swings the advertisement back into place. As she runs to the gate on the far side, you hear a confused pileup of Neddy pursuers in the dead end. You emerge onto a new back street and return to your original course. The stragglers pick you up, but you've gained some breathing room. You're clear of the docks now. From a nearby roof, cats criticize your driving. We can let the horses have their head. Until now, they have only been frisky. Or we can do something unpredictable. Perhaps this has all been too meticulously planned. Let's let the horses have their head. Whoa! You lengthen the reins and snap, which is, coincidentally, also what your horses do. You could swear that light itself bends and stretches. Such is the velocity with which they hurtle you along public streets. Signs, windows, fences, gates flash past in an instant. Your pursuers will never match this acceleration. Rats dart across the road ahead. A chemical deterrent? A delivery cart ahead is full of bottles bearing F.F. Gerbrandt's name. Might they react if mixed? Well, my ruthless gives me an 80% chance of success here, or we could do something unpredictable, which is a 50% chance. Let's see if we can pass the ruthless check. We succeeded. You grab a copy of Reflections on Ys from behind you and lob it into the array of bottles as you pass. It strikes, corner first, and shatters a couple of bottles. The result is extraordinary. A fountain of white fire erupts from the cart, searing nearby brickwork and throwing broken glass across the street. Even the reflection interferes with your vision. The Neddy men must be nearly blind. You look around for your next turn. An early morning devil watches, twirling his scarf. Go to ground. Something is causing drag on the cart, and your Neddy pursuers are temporarily out of sight. Down a side street, you spot a darkened workshop with loading doors. This is your chance to rest the horses and check over your vehicle. You make a sharp turn and rein in your wild-eyed horses. The padlock is old and rusty, and you make short work of it. The doors creak, flaking tired paint. You pull the wagon inside and close the doors. Seconds later, Neddy men ride past on the main street. Holding your breath, you peer between the doors. One pursuer stares directly at them, then turns away and moves on. You'll have a few minutes at least. The workshop is dark, lit by one weary lantern. You lean against the wall, get your breath back. Hoofs and wheels clatter on the cobbles some distance away. After a few precious seconds of quiet, you hear a thump and the sound of pained breathing from inside your refuge. Let's investigate. Is it a constable? A jack? A literary agent? Who's there? You creep around the wall. You hear little gasps and grunts, the sound of a physical struggle. The sweating horses shift, responding to the tension. As you round the cart, you see a twisted shadow spill from your cartload. It contorts and gyrates in an alien fashion. You swing up the lantern. Oh, your intruder is actually a bedraggled middle-aged man. His ankle is caught between the piles of books, and the rest of his body protrudes horizontally from the gap. His face is very red. "Would you help me down?" the man says. Who are you? You must really like poetry to be trapped inside it like this." He bites his lip. "I'm a clerk for the Ministry of Public Decency. I used to work on Mr. Page's Dictionopedia, but it promoted me to the incoming literature desk." For a moment you think he's about to cry, but he is simply having trouble, sneezing upside down. "I liked working on the Dictionopedia. It had definite rights and wrongs. Well, sort of. And nobody expected it to get finished quickly. We spent entire weeks debating whether to use a semicolon or a comma in the entry for bombazine." He sniffs. "I was very happy." So how did you get here? Specifically, how did he get his foot stuck in the reflections on East? I was in the warehouse when you burst in. I didn't want you to hit me, so I stayed in hiding. But when you took all the books, I didn't want Mr. Pages to discover me in an empty warehouse. So I jumped up on the cart and hid between the book stacks. He shivers. I wish now that I'd not done that. You give him a hard stare. The story is ridiculous enough to be true, and he does have the air of a man who recently made an immense mistake. So, why was the book warehoused? And why were the special constables absent? You have to understand, the wedged man says. When Mr. Pages is unhappy, everybody is unhappy. When Mr. Pages is angry, everybody suffers. Clerks, janitors, constables, the tea lady, and the book you have on your cart, he looks pointedly at his trapped foot, it made Mr. Pages incandescent with rage. Acromantical, as it would say. So, his hands flap a little. We had a meeting, and we decided it would be best if the print run was out of its sight. So it ended up misplaced in that warehouse. Mr. Pages was angry, of course, when the book went missing, but within a few hours it was interested in something else. Everything got back to normal, but the books were still in the warehouse. They had to disappear permanently. There had to be a cover story. You look at your cart, laden with the entire run of the book, which had to disappear. Outside you hear shouts and rattling doors. It is really rather uncomfortable, the man says. My ankle is making sounds. I suppose we should free the man. He is a civil servant after all, and it would be awkward to corner with him, stuck there. You put your shoulder onto the rear stack. The clerk's ankle comes free and he topples to the floor head first. Ow! He cries. The door to the workshop rattles. A voice from outside yells, Oi! In there! In there! Your hiding place has been discovered. You glance at the clerk. He's trying to climb into a barrel whilst nursing his swollen ankle. Yeah! Your horses clatter through the workshop door. Neddy men go flying for a second time. The cart picks up speed. The horses seem to find a second wind. Bats swoop low, keeping pace with you for a few moments. So we can either use our prepared route, or we can drop debris behind us. There are some charming fungus displays ahead, hanging off a pub fascia. Yes. If you time this right, you can distribute potted fungus across the cobbles without even slowing down. You extend a flat, stiff arm to scoop up the pots from their perch. As you make contact and the pots begin to tumble, your nostrils are assaulted by a penetrating, earthy aroma. The angle is just right. The pots bounce off the top of the books and scatter behind your cart, smashing with a series of satisfying cracks. The resulting obstacle course forces the Neddy men to slow down and zigzag from side to side. You gain several cart's lengths in the meantime. Your nostrils fill with the unforgettable aroma of sweaty horse. Let's use one of our prepared routes. The entrance is deceptive. There is just a slight wiggle to the gap between buildings. It looks like you could turn at speed and continue at a gentle angle. That's why you chose it, of course. You hit the turn perfectly. You countersteer just enough to edge your load around the bend. The cart careens past the back door of various establishments. Are those red stockings hung on a line? An eddy cart attempts to follow your route and tilts on its side with a satisfying crash. They'll get it back upright, but in the meantime, you've gained ground. The cart rattles along the outskirts of Spite. Two dedicated drunks raise their bottles to you. Let's speed around the corner. This might be your chance to shake them. The cart careers around a right-angled turn. You see something blocking the road ahead. A produce market is setting up in the street ahead of you. The road is blocked with small traders, hungover chefs and glassy-eyed carousers who have not yet been to bed. We can blow our whistle You've got your pursuers exactly where you want them, or we can yell at the top of your voice. Time to channel the Bishop of Suffolk. Let's blow our whistle. This seems like the more interesting choice. The shrill blast of your whistle alerts a team of urchins who have been dozing on the roofs. Working as one, they heave a series of ropes, gathering in the canvas you laid across the road earlier. The partly built stalls and lethargic customers are pulled to either side, parting the market like a biblical Red Sea. Your cart flashes through the gap, and the urchins release the rope. Your pursuers falter as they are faced with a pile of angry pedestrians, borrowed and spilled fruit. Most effective. A passing deacon mouths a quick prayer. We can't use our cantankerous horses again, so the only choice we have is to hold the course. The cart timbers buckle. The wheels rattle. Don't lose your nerve now. Stray ropes from the flit batter your cart. One horse begins a sort of nasal whine. Angry cats scatter from your path. The cart behind you groans under the weight of the books. The Neddy men have thinned out, but they're still coming, gaining even. In the distance, the bazaar looms. You steady the horses, eyes on the prize. In the distance you hear heavy wings. We can chant maniac's prayers. What is that going to do? It might offer a little extra something. You intone the words as your horses pound the street. You feel an odd moment of dislocation, and then you are in an entirely different street. Something is scratched into the back of your hand. Your nostrils itch. One of the Neddy men behind you is on fire. Inexplicably, as if frozen, you see every detail of a smashed chimney pot on the pavement. We can snatch something for breakfast. Boxes of fresh fish are piled on shop doorsteps. You'll be hungry later. The main thing is to escape the Neddy men, but people pick up objects from horseback all the time. Surely it will be easier with 4 horses. You fix the reins and lie against the edge of the cart. As you come up on a likely fishmonger, it is the work of a moment to reach down and pluck a large fish from the top of the box. Pungent. Perhaps you'll smoke it later. And here we go. At last their numbers are thinning out. Let's make our final getaway. The chase has run its course. Time to put it at an end. The street is wide open. It offers too many ways for your Neddy antagonists to catch up. You need to discourage further pursuit, and a feature ahead may present just that opportunity. A dark arch looms up ahead. Perhaps it was intended for the railway, perhaps a canal. Either way, it's slightly lower than the total height of your cart plus the books. A cart of Neddy men thunders towards you from behind. We can either reduce our height, you saved one last trick for this moment, or we can power through. Books are tougher than bricks, right? Let's reduce our height. It takes precise driving to hit the 2 little trenches you excavated earlier, spaced apart exactly the width of the cart. Your wheels slot into the trenches and the entire cart drops about 9 inches, just enough to give you the clearance you require. Your stomach lurches at the drop and subsequent bump back to ground level. But you're through. You glance backwards. The driver of the Neddy cart sees you pass safely and urges his horse forwards. He is, however, unaware of the trenches. The speeding cart hits them at an awkward angle. The front wheel buckles, jams, and the entire cart flips back over front. Neddy passengers soar through the air for glorious moments before the stones of the bridge interrupt their flight, and in some cases, their faces. The cart tumbles and crashes into the space beneath the bridge, legs and hats poking out of every gap. It's out of action, and even better, it's blocking any other pursuit. The chase is over. You've successfully liberated the entire print run of Reflections on Ys from the clutches of Mr. Pages. Perhaps the situation has ongoing complications, but at least you haven't been bludgeoned to death by Neddy men. And to read a little of the book, you deserve a breather. and you've gone to so much trouble for this notorious collection. You might as well read a few pages. The paper cover is crisp beneath your fingers, and the pages part with a whiff of hot metal and the gleam of new ink. You choose a poem at random. Grathlon's Repose. Consider the cedars, earth reclaimed. Am I a new canoe? The hungry sea, the sentry wall, rising, falling doom. Come with me to race the tide, key hot in my hand. Dreams of salt, of souls and souls upon the ocean's stones. Yes? Let's try another section. Perhaps you just got unlucky last time. You flick to a page nearer the back of the book. The beggar's egress. As the waves flooded in, he picked up his tin. And as oblivion loomed, the beggar he saw, a whale's open maw, Yona, would ere be subsumed. The coins from his jar, thrown all to afar, would sink by the light of the moon. So dwell not on wealth, but cherish thy health, as the waters they come for thee soon. You now understand why this book so outraged Mr. Pages. It didn't challenge the bizarre or undermine the authority of the masters. The text is just, well, atrociable. Well, let's pack it away. Well, you're not being paid to appreciate it. Time to get it back to the publisher and claim the reward. You slip the book back into the pile and climb back up behind the horses. The air is cool and clear as you flick the reins. The cart trundles into motion. You take the first turn in the direction of your rendezvous. It seems unwise to pull up in front of the office with a cart of literary swag. You spot an urchin who owes you a favour and send a message to the publisher should meet you round the back. After a few minutes, the publisher emerges. His face brightens and his hands raise. You did it! You did it! You actually did it! He seizes a book from the cart and holds it up in unashamed exultation. Well, let's claim the reward. It will truly be worth your time, he promised. You have to mention the reward a couple of times before the publisher hears you. Oh yes, of course, he says. He tucks that one book inside his jacket and turns to you. With a grand sweep of the arm, a beatific smile, he intones, "You may keep the books." He waits for your expression of delight. You search the publisher's face for some indication that this is a practical joke. You do not find one. He nods. Yes, I know it's difficult to believe, but I mean all for you. Well, I might take a spare copy. He flinches another from the cart. Okay, so let's just claim a reward for real. This heist was not pitched to you as the opportunity to become a book distributor. The publisher's mouth drops open. When he closes it again, he looks awkward. I'm sorry you feel that way. The book is worth, well, more than anything else I could offer. We spend our entire working capital on each print run and expect to recoup it through sales. Think of how much you could earn selling these. You ask how much the previous book made. This is our first publication, actually, he says. Although the publisher still maintains an aura of serene beneficence, his face betrays a smidgen of doubt. There must be more than 100 books on the cart, he says. You could easily get 2, even 3 pennies a copy. Let's give him a hard stare. What kind of chump commissions a dashing stranger to tangle with the authorities and expects to get away with it without payment? His smile returns, and he takes a step closer, in the manner of one who has secreted an ace up his sleeve. Ha! You see, I'm not just the publisher. I'm also Julian R. Harvey, the author. He beams and waits for you to congratulate him. The publisher turns out his pockets. I don't really have any money, he says, but with all the notoriety from the seizure, I'll start a subscription to fund the next book. As the liberator of Ys, you could write a foreword, anonymously, of course. Oh boy. We can pillage his office. Perhaps you can take a good clock in payment, or a really fancy pen. Or we could just take the books. Just listening to this man is exhausting. And you need to return the horses. I'm not going to pillage his office. That feels... Should I? I'm going to pillage his office. Screw it. I want a nice pen. The clock is 4 minutes slow. The pen has already leaked onto a desk with a cracked veneer. The office lacks the glamour of the big publishing houses on Blackfinger Street. It seems he has indeed poured all his resources into printing his first collection of appalling poetry. You search a little further. In the bottom of the cupboard is a box of old, but somehow still edible, biscuits. Really? This is your payment? A crate of incorruptible biscuits. They never go off. Arguably, they were never on. Hey! The publisher-author sees you emerge with his crate. Those are my writing biscuits! You speculate aloud how much you might get for his suit. He hugs himself and shuts up. So we can either leave the books, he needs the print run more than you, just dump them in the street. He can carry them upstairs himself. Or we can take the books. Just listening to this man is exhausting. Let's take the books. Oh, goddamn. Yeah! You urge the horses forward. The cart moves off. Perhaps unwisely, you glance around. Your erstwhile patron watches the stacks of his poetry depart with the air of a proud shipbuilder, witnessing his latest dreadnought descend the slipway towards future glory. You appear to be a book distributor now. Unfortunately, for your strenuous, dangerous, exhausting efforts, you have been rewarded with 2 stacks of appalling poetry about a mythical city. Stacks which could get you arrested if you were ever connected with them. How will you salvage this situation? So we can either dump them in the river, a straightforward, satisfying option, if not the most lucrative. We can commission the Bohemians to sell them with our Bohemian favour. You're not dumping the book on them, you're making them partners in an exciting, forbidden literacy enterprise. You can sell them direct to small bookshops. More radical establishments will probably be interested. Or you can burn them. Burning books is frowned upon, but you'll clean up from the rare book trade. Let's commission the Bohemians to sell them. This seems like a very interesting option. Next morning, you gather your sales team in the upstairs room of a Vale Garden pub and deliver your inspirational pre-campaign speech before any of them gets to touch the books. At the end, you send them out across the city, eyes sparkling, each with a case stuffed with pristine copies of Reflections on Ys. Your presentation has generated the exhilarating buzz of competition. With a bit of luck, it will sell out before any of them try to read it. Come evening, your salespeople return. There is a certain aura of desolation and mild drunkenness. A couple of copies of the book circulate, but most appear to have shifted. Straws are drawn and the loser approaches you. He doesn't look you in the eyes at first. Sorry, he says. No money left, but we saved you some wine. Finally, he screws up his courage and meets your gaze. You knew, didn't you? You knew that it was terrible and you still sent us out there. What have you done to our reputation? He shuffles off in search of the hard stuff. You examine the wine. A good bottle, and present company accepted. Your reputation remains intact. So we gained a bottle of 4th City Airag, always good. We obtained a queer soul, a remarkable, almost unclassifiable specimen with very peculiar qualities. A connoisseur devil might pay a premium for this. We gained a night on the town, a deep-sea catch, and we did, however, lose our favour with the Bohemians, but that is fine. And we gave Lucky back, and we gave the prototype loader back. And I did see that I had to wait for me to draw a card to see what the end is. So let me see if I can get that to happen. Oh, there you go. First click. Stolen Stanzas, the epilogue. You awaken in the middle of the night, haunted by a discordant couplet from Reflections on Ys. You got the books into the hands of readers, and Julian R. Harvey is still out there, perhaps working on a 2nd volume at this very hour. We can either turn over and go back to sleep. The man is entitled to self-expression, and to ruin perfectly good blank paper, as long as he can pay for it. Or we can write an anonymous note to Mr. Pages. It sounds like the master has forgotten all about the reflections on Ys. Why should it have that luxury? Perhaps a reminder will tie up this business for good. Let's write a note to Mr. Pages. You piece together an anonymous letter by clipping words from the unexpurged Gazette and address it to Mr. Pages. In the morning, you roam far from your lodgings and post it. A couple of days later, you stroll past the publisher's office. The door bears new marks of forcible entry, and a sign in the window reads, "For rent." You'll sleep better tonight. This is the end of Stolen Stanzas. And we reminded Mr. Pages about Harvey's dreadful poetry. Oh, I love it. I'm sure that's going to come up somewhere just really random. And that's it. That is the end of January's exceptional story. I'm going to thank you all very much for watching this. And I enjoyed that quite a lot. I liked the chase. I thought it was quite fun. It used a lot of actions, but I enjoyed it quite a lot. I hope that you also enjoyed this. I don't know if there was many other choices you can make, but if there were other choices, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, I'll see you next time.